Yes, it is possible to hire a car and do your own independent self-drive tour of Egypt. Despite what you might have read on the internet, we managed a very enjoyable 2.5-week self-driving tour that took in Cairo, Giza, Marsa Alam on the Red Sea and Luxor before heading back to Cairo. Yes, there were some crazy moments, and there's definitely certain times, places and conditions that I would advise against driving in if you can. But for the most part, driving in Egypt was very rewarding because of the freedom it offers, and actually quite pleasant. We picked up a rental car from Sphinx International Airport with Sixt, and the process was relatively straightforward.
Within minutes we were loaded up and driving out of the airport, but almost immediately we hit our first snag. At the exit we had to pay for parking, and the man in the booth would only accept Egyptian pounds. We did persuade him to take dollars in the end, but we definitely paid over the odds. So do get some Egyptian pounds from the airport if you get the chance.
Our hotel was in Giza, chosen because it's close to the pyramids and has secure parking. The next morning we set off early for the new Great Gate to visit the pyramids, where we knew there was a large car park. Driving around Giza in the morning was quite busy, but definitely manageable.
Most of the roads in Giza are wide and modern, but you need to get used to the driving style. Egyptian drivers only look forward and will drift between lanes without indicating or having any idea what's behind them. The way I dealt with this was just to accept that's how they drive, not get stressed, and give them a quick roadrunner style beep beep if they got too close. It's not seen as rude or aggressive, it's just the way Egyptians avoid collisions.
We reached the new gate without incident and were impressed. It felt modern, organised and much calmer than we expected, and there was plenty of parking. Later, for lunch, we drove to Rooftop 7000 and parked right outside. It's opposite the old Sphinx entrance to the Giza Plateau. The views were absolutely incredible, but the area outside the old entrance felt chaotic, with crowds of school children and lots of touts trying to sell services. If you're visiting, I'd definitely recommend the new gate instead. That afternoon, we drove to Saladin Citadel. We used Google Maps to guide us through the city. Honestly, it worked just as well as back home. Cairo traffic was definitely busier than Giza, and you need to have your wits about you, but we arrived without incident or undue stress. We found a space in the Citadel's car park and loved having the freedom to explore the site at our own pace. The next day we decided to take an Uber to visit the Coptic Christian area and el-Khalili Bazaar because we couldn't work out where we'd park. Uber works pretty much just like it does at home and is a great way to get around Cairo if driving in the city is just too stressful for you. One thing I would say about driving in Cairo is avoid driving after 4 PM when Egyptians start heading home from work, because it gets really chaotic and the chances of somebody scraping your hire car really goes up. And I would definitely try and avoid driving after dark.
For whatever reason, Egyptians drive much faster, much worse, and it's much harder to see the cyclists, donkeys, pedestrians and speed humps that appear erratically in amongst the already chaotic traffic.
One of the places we were most excited to visit was Saqqara, which was about a 40-minute drive from our hotel. On Google Maps it looked like a fairly simple drive, and for most of the journey it really was. Once outside Giza, the roads became much quieter and you follow along the river, which makes it quite a pleasant drive.
However, right near Saqqara, Google Maps directed us off to the right down a dirt track along an irrigation channel. It just didn't feel right, so we did a U-turn and followed the road signs that we found nearby to Saqqara. If you're ever in doubt, typically follow the road signs rather than the satnav.
Once inside Saqqara, driving was easy. There were decent signs and parking areas near the main attractions, which made exploring really straightforward. Eventually our time in Giza came to an end, and it was time for the biggest drive of the trip, an 8-hour road trip from Giza to Marsa Alam on the Red Sea coast. This was the drive we'd been most unsure about before arriving in Egypt. But once out of Giza, the majority of the drive was very easy and relaxed on large new roads that are still being constructed.
There were a number of police checkpoints along the main road. We just slowed down for the speed bumps and were waved through. However, at one, we were stopped by a young officer who said our registration had come up on a speed camera and we needed to report to the police captain to pay a fine. We were surprised, as I'd had the car set on cruise control under the speed limit, which seemed to vary between 90 and 100 kilometers per hour. And we thought this was going to be some sort of scam. However, on reporting to the captain, he was able to check the camera logs on his phone and could see it was actually a different vehicle with a very similar number plate, and he just waved us on our way. We actually found all the police we encountered were very helpful and protective of tourists, which was a relief. If you do get caught speeding, we were told the fine would have been 100 Egyptian pounds in cash, which is about a couple of dollars, which is worth knowing just in case.
If you're going to Hurghada, the journey is pretty straightforward. We passed Hurghada and carried on down the Red Sea coast to Marsa Alam, down a major dual carriageway. It was still under construction in places, and every now and then there'd be traffic driving towards us on the wrong side of the road, as the other carriageway was still being built. About 6 hours into the journey, Google Maps directed us to carry straight on, where we saw a sign off to the right to Saqqara, which is on the way to Marsa Alam. After a few more miles, the main road just ended, and Google Maps directed us to carry on by crossing onto the wrong carriageway. We spent a while considering the best course of action, and eventually decided to channel our inner Egyptian driver and drive into the oncoming traffic the short distance to a fuel station we could see not far ahead. The attendant at the service station said it was fine to carry on, and we waited until a big truck was going the same way as us and followed close behind it. As these roads get finished, these issues will become less common, but for now, when in doubt, definitely follow the road signs, not your satnav.
Just a quick tip on petrol stations. It's worth getting the hire company to write down in English and Arabic the fuel you need, including the octane numbers, as the colour of the pump handles are not standardised. It's not self-serve, and you wait for the attendant to fill up for you. You need to ask if they take credit cards or dollars before filling up, as many of the smaller stations will only take Egyptian pounds in cash.
Eventually we arrived at our hotel in Marsa Alam, ready to jump into the sea and explore the coral reef. Overall, we genuinely enjoyed driving in Egypt. It gave us flexibility, freedom, and the chance to experience the country in our own way, at our own pace. There were a few minor incidents, but it was absolutely possible, and for us, it was all part of the adventure.
We'll do a separate video giving more information about deciding if and how to drive in Egypt soon. If you have any specific questions, leave them in the comments and we'll answer them in that film if we can.
Join us for our next video where we drive from Marsa Alam to Luxor. Please do subscribe and check out the comments for more tips on road travel in Egypt, and to find out which roads were actually closed to tourists.